It started with a garden gnome. Not just any gnome. A cheerful little guy holding a lantern, sitting innocently beside my driveway. Apparently, this was a grave violation of HOA bylaws Section 14, Article 9 subclause, B. No ornamental figures of humanoid shape may be visible from the street. Yes, they actually wrote that. A week later, I found a letter taped to my door with bold red ink. Notice of violation. Remove gnome or face fines. I laughed. My wife laughed. The gnome laughed too, probably. But our HOA president, who I'll just call Karen, did not laugh. She claimed the gnome distracted drivers and lowered property values. I wish I was making that up. Now, I'm usually a chill guy. Suburban life is supposed to be about grilling steaks, mowing lawns, and ignoring your neighbors except to wave at them awkwardly. But Karen was about to drag me into a suburban war. Instead of removing the gnome, I moved it closer to the sidewalk. Petty. Absolutely. But it set the tone. Karen started showing up in person, clipboard in hand, glaring like she was personally avenging fallen property values. And that was just the beginning. 2 weeks later, Karen escalated. Another letter arrived, this time in all caps. Second notice. Failure to remove gnome. Fine. $100 per day until resolved. $100 a day. For a gnome. I called the HOA office, which was basically Karen's spare bedroom with a landline. The call went like this. Me. Karen, are you serious? Karen. The rules are the rules. Me. Your husband has a 20-foot inflatable Santa in July. Karen, click. The hypocrisy was delicious. So I started documenting. Photos, timestamps, copies of every letter. If Karen sneezed near my mailbox, I logged it. Meanwhile, the neighborhood grapevine kicked in. My next-door neighbor, Greg, whispered that Karen once fined him for grass height irregularities because his lawn was 2.75 inches instead of the required 2.5. Another guy got fined for leaving his trash can out for 23 minutes past pickup. Clearly, this wasn't just about me. Karen was running the HOA like her own tiny dictatorship. I decided if she wanted war, I'd bring paperwork, sarcasm, and patience. What Karen didn't know was that my wife was about to play a much bigger role in this saga. And unlike me, she wasn't exactly the let's all get along type. Things hit another level when Karen unveiled her latest power trip. HOA security. Translation. 2 retired mall cops in neon vests driving a golf cart with a plastic siren duct taped to it. One evening, I was grilling in the backyard when I saw them roll by, squinting like they were sniffing out contraband lawn decorations. I waved. They didn't wave back. The next morning, another letter arrived. Violation. Mailbox non-compliance. Your mailbox is 1.5 inches taller than regulation height. They had actually measured my mailbox. With a ruler. This time my wife stepped in. Now here's the thing. She's calm, funny, and down to earth. But she also happens to be active duty Delta Force. She doesn't advertise it. But when you've seen her cleaning a pistol while watching the Great British Bake Off, you get the picture. So when one of these HOA security officers marched onto our property with a clipboard and attitude, she walked out calmly, folded her arms, and asked, "Are you trespassing?" They stammered something about HOA jurisdiction. She just smiled. Cute. I knew then this wasn't just petty suburban drama anymore. Karen had accidentally picked a fight with a literal special ops soldier. By now, the fines had officially reached $1,200. Of course, I wasn't paying a dime. Instead, I was building a case. Every letter, every inconsistency, every picture of Karen's own lawn ornaments went into a neat binder labeled HOA Hypocrisy, Exhibit A. But Karen wasn't backing down. At the next board meeting, held in her garage, she theatrically announced, "We must preserve the integrity of our community." Then she held up a blown-up photo of my gnome, like it was Exhibit A in a murder trial. I raised my hand. "Karen, how do you justify fining me for a gnome while you have a pink flamingo army in your front yard?" The room went silent. A couple of neighbors snickered. Karen's face turned the shade of overripe tomatoes. She banged her little gavel. Yes, she had won. "This meeting is adjourned." But the damage was done. Neighbors started questioning her authority. Greg whispered, You've started something, man. Karen must have sensed her grip slipping, because the next day, she did something outrageous. She sent her so-called security team back to my house, and this time, things escalated into dangerous territory. It was late evening when it happened. My wife was outside trimming hedges when the security patrol rolled up. Instead of their usual clipboard routine, one of them, a balding guy with mirrored sunglasses, actually unholstered a gun. He pointed it toward my wife and barked, "Ma'am, step away from the property. This is an HOA enforcement action." I froze. My brain couldn't process the absurdity. HOA security. With a gun? My wife, however, didn't freeze. She just raised an eyebrow. Calm as stone, she said, "You're pointing a weapon at federal military personnel. Do you understand what that means?" What the guard didn't know was that she wasn't alone. Half her Delta team had been visiting that evening for a barbecue. They were inside, watching football. The second the gun cleared its holster, 3 red laser dots appeared on the guy's chest and 1 on his forehead. The poor man dropped his weapon so fast it nearly broke his toe. My wife calmly picked it up, unloaded it, and handed it back. "Leave. Now." That was the moment Karen's little suburban empire officially imploded. The next morning, the entire neighborhood was buzzing. Someone had filmed the incident from their Ring camera and uploaded it to the community Facebook group with the caption, "HOA security goes full Rambo, instantly regrets it." It went viral. Neighbors who'd been quietly enduring Karen's reign of terror suddenly had courage. People were sharing their own violation letters, photos of Karen's flamingos, and screenshots of ridiculous fines. I posted my binder of evidence, highlighting every time Karen broke her own rules. Trash cans out late, non-approved lawn furniture, even her husband's illegal fireworks stash. By noon, the neighborhood was in open rebellion. Greg knocked on my door holding a lawn gnome in solidarity. Soon, there were 20 gnomes on my lawn. By nightfall, nearly every house had one. It was glorious, like a silent protest but with goofy hats. Karen tried to double down, sending out a mass email. "All gnomes must be removed immediately. Non-compliance will result in fines and legal action." But this time nobody listened. For once, Karen wasn't in control. A week later, the emergency board meeting was packed. Normally, 5 board retirees showed up. This time, nearly the whole neighborhood came, and everyone was armed with grievances. Karen sat at the folding table, gavel ready, clearly expecting to intimidate. She started with, "Order! Order!" like she was running Congress. I stood up with my binder. "Karen, we've all had enough. Here's proof you've been selectively enforcing rules, fining people unfairly, and breaking bylaws yourself." I handed copies to the crowd. Pages rustled like courtroom drama. Greg shouted from the back, "My grass was 2.75 inches, Karen." 2.75. Laughter erupted. Another neighbor yelled, "Why do your flamingos get a pass?" Someone else added, "And why do we pay HOA dues if the playground swings have been broken for 2 years?" Karen banged her gavel furiously. "This meeting is over." But nobody left. One of the board members, usually her loyal sidekick, cleared his throat. "Actually, Karen, the bylaws allow for a vote of no confidence." The crowd erupted in cheers. The ballot was quick. Out of 30 voting households, 27 voted to remove Karen as president. 2 abstained. One person, probably her husband, voted to keep her. Karen's face collapsed. She sputtered, threatened lawsuits, claimed she was the HOA. But the board confirmed the results. Karen was officially out. The new acting president, a quiet librarian named Susan, stood up. "First order of business. No more fines for gnomes, mailboxes, or grass height." The crowd cheered like we'd just won the Super Bowl. Susan continued, "Second order. HOA security is disbanded. Effective immediately." More cheers. My wife leaned over and whispered, "Guess they don't need Delta Force anymore." I laughed so hard I nearly choked. Karen stormed out, muttering about ungrateful peasants. The sight of her flamingo army wobbling in the wind as she drove away was poetic. For the first time in months, the neighborhood felt lighter. Kids played outside, people waved at each other, and gnomes proudly guarded front lawns like little stone heroes. In the weeks that followed, the neighborhood transformed. Without Karen micromanaging every blade of grass, people actually enjoyed living here again. HOA meetings turned into casual BBQs. Instead of fines, we organized community potlucks and repair days. And Karen? She tried to sue the HOA. But when her own violation history was presented in court, the judge laughed her out of the room. Rumor has it she moved 2 towns over, probably starting a new dictatorship there. As for me, I kept the original gnome. He now sits proudly at the center of my lawn, surrounded by 20 others gifted by neighbors. We even named him General Gnome, a symbol of our suburban uprising. The funniest part? The property values didn't plummet. In fact, they went up. Turns out people actually like living in a neighborhood where you aren't threatened for owning a mailbox an inch too tall. Looking back, I realized the HOA never stood a chance. Not against sarcasm, paperwork, and definitely not against a wife who can neutralize a threat before you even blink. So yeah, next time someone threatens us over a gnome, I'll just smile. Because this neighborhood doesn't bow to tyrants anymore.